and welcome to Eurosport for the 6th and final round of the Grundig Downhill World Cup, coming to you from Kaprun, the institution of downhill racing. The 10th time this course has been used since 1988, and in fact the 5th time the 5th time in a row that it's been used in the World Cup official since 1993. And if you remember last year, it was Britain's Rob Warner who won the men's race, and it was Missy Giove who won the women's race. Before proceedings began today, we had the Austrian national anthem sung by soprano Stephanie M. Macrot. Kaprun, wonderful place, and as I said before, the 10th time it's been used in the downhill racing scene, the 5th time in the Grundig World Cup. In fact, the downhill race here coinciding with the beer festival they have every year, hence the reason it's being run on a Friday. You couldn't get perfect scenery, could you, for a downhill World Cup? Not only do they have mountain biking here, they also have golf, water sports and every other sort of summer sport you could imagine. The course, though, very, very different from last year. Last year it was a massive course. But we're going to take a peek at it with the on-bike camera this time. It's been shortened by 3.2 kilometers. It's now actually 3.65 kilometers long. It starts at 1,400 meters, it finishes at 800, and the drop is 600 meters. There are no uphill sections, which will please the downhill racers this year. And the initial section from last year, the very fast start from the gate, has been cut out as well. And it's the middle section that has been modified most of all. That's the section where the riders had a couple of uphills, but much more of a downhill course. And the first thing we're going to see is recorded from earlier today. Anne-Caroline Chasson, she was second in the women's semi-finals today with a time of 4:45.11. The fastest rider in the semi-finals, well, would you believe it, Missy Giove, the Volvo Cannondale rider, she had a time of 4:41.79. And of course these two riders vying for the top spot in the overall standings. Both riders, Anne-Caroline Chasson, she's won 2 rounds already in Italy and Spain, and second in Canada, in Harrisonburg. But the previous fastest time, that of Malin Lindgren, 4:45.92. But Anne-Caroline, the reigning world champion and second overall in the World Cup last year, it all hinged on the final result in Hawaii last year. She needed to come in the top 3 and she came 4th last year, and she lost the series to the winner that day, Missy Giove. Missy needed to win and Caroline not come in the top 3, and she did just that. But it was Missy who was fastest in the semi-finals today. Recently come from a crash in Italy. She raced one of the rounds of the Italian National Cup. She's now based in Europe, by the way. She raced a round of the Italian Cup, and she crashed there and had to have more than 12 stitches put in both knees. Missy really is amazing. She does crash rather a lot. She lets it all hang out. But she crashed there, and she also crashed in the semi-finals and hurt her shoulder, but she was still fastest in the semis. But she got a time of 4:39.37 to beat. She was slightly slower than that in the semis. The Volvo Cannondale rider with Anne-Caroline Chasson looking on intently. She's going to be very, very wound up and anxious, I'm sure. The time that Missy has got to beat, 4:39.37. Will the Volvo Cannondale rider do it again like she did in '96? Can she win the series? In the last drop of the hat, she can indeed. Missy Giove, 2.15 seconds faster than Anne-Caroline Chasson. She wins her 2nd race of the year, and she takes the World Cup title for the 2nd time in a row. Brilliant riding from Missy Giove, being congratulated by teammate Kim Sonia Kim had a slightly disappointing run today, but there you have confirmation of that result. Missy Jovi in first spot, Chasson in second, Malin Lindgren, brilliant ride from her in third, Lee Donovan fourth, and Giovanna Banazzi in fifth. And the two riders talking to each other. And there you have the final result. Jovi first, Chasson second, both the same points, but because Jovi won the final round here in Kaprun, she takes the series overall. And in fact, we go straight from the women's, which was recorded earlier, to Cedric Gracier, the Sun Nike rider, 17th fastest in the semi-final run. The fastest in the semis was Basta Beva, winner of the first round of the World Cup in South Africa this year. He had a time of 4:20.49 in the semis. Best British place rider was Steve Peat there. He was 8th with 4:27.20. There were 5 Brits in the top 70. There's 70 starters in the men's field, 50 in the women's. 5 Brits in the top 70. Peat was 8th, Tim Ponting, the animal rider, 44th, Rob Kitchen, 51st, another animal rider, Steve Gio, another animal rider, 56th. Rob Kitchen was 51st, and Rob Warner, surprisingly, down in 60th spot in the semis, the giant rider. But we're looking at Cedric Gracier now. The fastest time so far we've had this morning is 4:15.93, and Gracier is not going to beat that. He's way outside of that at the moment. I'm afraid I can't tell you who it is who's the fastest at the moment. I will do when I can get that information. But Gracier comes across in 14th spot, 4:25.74. He'll be disappointed with that, Gracier. And there you have it, the fastest so far, Tommy Misser, 4:15. He was looking good when I was watching him earlier. Gracier, very, very disappointed with that, I'm sure. As we go back to number 28, Christian Talifa, the Peugeot Palisade rider. And this course, as I said earlier, slightly short, well, slightly, it's a lot shorter than it was, 3.2 kilometers shorter. They virtually chopped it in half. And as I said earlier, it was Britain's Rob Warner who won this race in 1996. Conditions a lot different than they are now. It was raining that year, and Rob won with a time of 7:15.32. Fastest time so far this year, 4:15. So you can imagine the length that they've chopped out of the course. But that was such a brilliant run from Rob last year. Took everyone by surprise, but it was the first British downhill World Cup win. Excellent riding from him. Unfortunately that day, Steve Peat had some problems, finished 58th, our next best rider. And now, the fastest rider so far, Nicolas Vouilloz, the defending World Cup champion and world champion as well. I don't know his time, but he's first at the moment. We haven't seen him, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. I'd love to tell you, but I can't. I will do it as soon as I can. But Christian Talifa, been around a long, long time. In fact, he was third at the World Championships way back in 1992. Behind Dave Callanan, 5.6 seconds behind Cully that day. But Christian Talifa, I don't think he's going to threaten Vouilloz's time. 7.92 behind at that checkpoint. Didn't have a particularly good World Cup last year, Christian. 42nd that year. This man does love speed, though. He broke the land speed record twice in 1994. He's been bettered since then, though, by Eric Barone, the Sun Nike rider and teammate. I suppose you call him a teammate of Nicolas Vouilloz, the fastest rider today. 4:15.93 is the fastest time, but Christian Talifa is not going to beat that. This time 4:24.89, 11th spot at the moment. I believe that time of 4:15.93 is of Nicholas Vullios, but I'm not certain about that. I'm sure he's in first spot at the moment, but Talifa hasn't threatened that at all. He'll be disappointed. One of the best French downhillers they've got. We're taking a very short break. Join me after that. Oh, we're not taking a short break. I was just about to say, go and get yourself a cup of tea. But we'll just look at this rider, Michael Pascal, one of the best French up-and-coming riders at the moment. Only 17 years old, Michael. He was second in the French National Championships about 3 weeks ago, behind Nicholas Vullios, the leader at the moment. So we're looking at number 72, teammate of Nicholas Vullios. Pascal, who lives in Austria in the Savoy region of France. Brilliant rider. Although lacking the strength, as you would expect. Oh, he has difficulty there. Wow, the back end was just getting away from him, wasn't it? Just managed to control it. Would have lost a couple of seconds there. In fact, Michael Pascal, if you've been watching Eurosport, recently has come second in their national point series, the International Oasis de Descent, second overall in the scratch series, but he's won the juniors by a mile for first places in the 7th in the 5-round series. But I'd be very surprised if he's going to threaten the time of Nicholas Vullios today. His qualifying time was 4:30.23, and Vullios, his qualifying time was 4:32.22. Vullios tends to take it a little easier in the semis. He knows what he has to do. He doesn't go all out generally. But Vullios was a lot slower than the fastest man in the semis, 11:73 slower than Bastaveva, the VSB Batavus rider. Pascal, he's not going to threaten Vullios' time. A lot slower at that checkpoint. 4:15.93 to beat. What will Pascal do? He's not going to beat that, is he? He's going to be a long way down, I think. 15 seconds, say. It's a lot different racing internationally than it is on your own national soil. So many good riders around now. But Pascal's time is going to be a lot slower, 4:36.81. He'll be very disappointed with that. Very disappointed indeed. 46th place at the moment. He's only done 2 World Cups before today. 35th he was at Mont St. Anne in Canada, at the last round in Harrisonburg in America. He was 48th there. So I suppose that placing at the moment is roughly about level with his ability on the international scene at the moment. But Marcus Klausmann now had a fabulous season last year, 2nd overall in the World Cup. This former junior, it was his first year last year in the seniors. Big, strong rider, Klausmann, now riding for Sintesi Velici. Last year he rode for the Hot Chili team, but he's joined forces with the leader of the World Cup at the moment, Corrado Herrin. What a formidable team they are as well. Let me just put you straight on the situation as far as the Men's World Cup is concerned. Corrado Herrin leads the World Cup at the moment with 225 points. Steve Peat, the British rider, is in 2nd spot with 198. Jürgen Beneke is in 3rd with 195. That actually means that if Herrin is to win the World Cup, he can afford to come 8th. Oh, and Klausmann goes down. Oh, dreadful stuff. Oh, he'll be disappointed there. He was looking very, very good, and he's buckled his front wheel. I'm afraid that's the end of his race for Klausmann. Oh, he will be disappointed. Very, very disappointed. Currently lying in 9th spot in the World Cup before today's race, with the best position of 3rd at Mont St. Anne. Ah, loses it there. Wow, that looks very, very painful, doesn't it? Klausmann not going to finish this round. Oh, what a shame. I was saying, had such a brilliant year last year. 2nd overall in the World Cup, 7th in the World Championships. Wow. He looks as though he might be in a bit of pain as well. We are now going to take a short break. Join me after that. Round of the Grundig Downhill World Cup, coming to you from Kaprun. The very, very revised course from last year in 1996 when British rider Rob Warner won that time. Talking to Francois Gachet earlier today, who was 10th fastest in the semi-finals. He said this course is very, very unforgiving. There is no rest whatsoever, and it's very, very fast as well. And at the moment, it's Nicholas Vullios, I believe, who is the fastest rider with that time 4:15.93 at the moment. I don't think Koch, the Scot rider, ranked 8th in the world at the beginning of the year, is going to threaten that time. He's not indeed. He's going to be slightly outside that. 4:23.84. He's in 8th spot. Not bad riding, but I'm sure he'd like to have been better. As we go back up the mountain to number 31, Gerwin Peters. A name new to most people on Eurosport in the Downhill World Cup, but he's a teammate of the fastest man in the semi-finals, Basterbever. He rides for VSB Batavus, the all-Dutch team. Gerwin Peters had a storming semi-final. 4:29.57, but already slower at that first checkpoint. 4:29.57 in the semi-finals for Gerwin. Fastest time then in the semis, 4:20.49, but the fastest time so far in the race proper today, 4:15.93, which I believe is that of Nicholas Vullios. Don't quote me, I haven't heard yet. But we keep seeing pictures of Nicholas, so I would believe that that is the case. Gerwin Peters generally rides in Europe. He's only 92nd in the World Cup last year with only one result at Pantycosa in the first round of the World Cup there. He's 38, so I wouldn't expect him to threaten the overall. But he could surprise us. If he came 12th in the semis, he can't be that bad a rider. But this is very, very hard, this section. The riders seem to slow down a lot here. And Gerwin looks like he's built like his teammate, Basterbever. Big, strong legs. Former BMXer as well. Hasn't done any World Cup so far this year. 20-year-old rider, very young. Did have a good result last year though in the World Championship, sorry, with a 17th place. He was 5.15 seconds behind. Just shows you the standard, sorry, of the competition in downhill racing. Only 5 seconds behind in 17th place. Unbelievable, really. And let me put you straight as far as the overall's concerned. I was saying that Corrado Herring leads the World Cup at the moment. In order to guarantee that he wins it, he can come 8th or higher. If he comes 8th or higher in the final run today, then he will win the World Cup. He was 9th fastest in qualifying with 4:27.38. Had a perfect score so far in the World Cup. It's the best 3 results plus the final round that counts, and he won 3 rounds. The 2nd, the 3rd and the 4th. Sierra Nevada, Nevergal and Mont Saint Anne, but Gerwin Peters 4:23.81. Not a bad time. Just out the previous rider, Guillaume Koch, from 8th spot, but Gerwin, I would think he'd be very lucky to stay in the top 10. With the good riders to come now. I'm afraid I can't give you the times of any of the previous British riders as we look at Tobias Westman, another strange name to Eurosport watchers in the downhill scene. Tobias rides for the Swedish national team. And of course he's Swedish. 5th fastest at that checkpoint. He only did one World Cup last year, and that was Kaprun here. He was 40th last year, when of course the course was a lot longer. 23.94 behind the winner last year, Rob Warner. Going back to the overall, Ricardo Herring does finish lower than 8th, and Steve Peat wins the race. Then Steve will win the World Cup overall. And Steve is the 8th fastest man with a time of 4:27.20, the GT rider. That's going to be a mighty tall order, but he can do it. He's been very, very good in the World Cup so far this year. He's had a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th, and a 12th. Very consistent riding from Pete. As we look at Tobias Westman, the Swedish rider, riding for the national team. Swedes have done very well, actually. So far, there you have the standings at the moment. Vullios in 1st, Misser in 2nd, Ron in 3rd, Andy Bueller in 4th, Vasquez in 5th, and Below in 6th. Andy Bueller, the 1996 junior world champion, surprised everyone there by beating Cedric Gracia, the man that we have seen earlier today, the Sun Nike rider. He beat Cedric Gracia into 2nd spot. That was a surprise to everyone. But Tobias Westman, actually, in those championships last year in 1996 in the juniors, he was 4th behind Bueller, 3.57 seconds behind, but he's not going to threaten overall today. Long way down at the 2nd checkpoint, only 19th spot. Takes some good air there, though. Looks like he's pushing too small a gear. I don't know what it looks like. He might have some problems engaging a bigger gear, but he wants to keep his speed up. He's not going to beat that time of 4:15.93 of Vullios. I can confirm that now. That is the time of Vullios, but Westman not going to threaten that. No way. He's not even going to get into the top 10. His time will be 4:27.91. Wow. 20th spot for Tobias Westman. Still not bad at the moment. He might beat his time of his position of last year, 40th last year, as we go back up the mountain to a welcome addition to the top 10 in the semi-finals. Francois Gachet, teammate of Sun Nike, world champion and World Cup defender, Nicolas Vullios. Gachet, it was rumoured that he was virtually retired from the sport, but he's come back with a bang in the semi-finals here in Kaprun. He's had disappointing results in the World Cup, 23rd in Sierra Nevada in the 3rd round of the World Cup, and only 38th at Mont Saint Anne. They're the only rounds he's finished for Gachet, and this is coming from the former world champion and World Cup winner. Gachet, good on all sorts of courses, but I don't think it's Vullios. 4:15.93 from Vullios. Vullios, unfortunately for him, broke his wrist at the beginning of the season, so he couldn't take part in the first 2 rounds of the World Cup. That meant that he couldn't defend it. He won the World Cup and the World Championships in 1995 and in 1996, but came back for the 3rd round Sierra Nevada. He was 46th there with a crash, and 5th in the next 2 rounds. Mont Saint Anne and Harrisonburg. So I think Vullios is definitely going to be targeting the World Championships and the European Championships. Although we've had the cross-country European Championships already this year, won by Lenny Christensen in the men, and Chantal Decour in the women. We haven't had the downhill European Championships. So Vullios, the man in the left of your picture, he wants to compete in that and the World Championships, but he's fastest at the moment, and I don't think Gachet is going to threaten that. He's not. He's gone past that time. Unfortunately, he's going to be quicker, I think, than his qualifying time. A lot quicker. 4:22.91 for Gachet. 6th fastest at the moment. Not bad. He's about 6 seconds quicker than his qualifying time. He'll be pleased with that, Francois Gachet. Big rider. Looks like he's put on a bit of muscle, though. Former World Cup winner and world champion from 1994. In fact, he won the European Championships as well in 1995, but we go back up the mountain to the man of the year so far. Before 1997, Corrado Herrin, he hadn't even won a World Cup race. Went out in South Africa in the first round this year, was 33rd, didn't look like he was going to be any good, but then bang, all of a sudden, bang, crash, wallop. 3 rounds on the trot. Fabulous riding from Herrin. He was first at Nevergirl. He was second at Sierra Nevada, and he was first at Sierra Nevada, and he was first at Mont Saint Anne. Wasn't too worried about Harrisonburg in the last round, the 5th round, came 11th there. But he had maximum points. Don't forget, it was the first 3 results, your best 3 results, sorry. And then the final to count towards your overall mark. So Herrin, he's got to finish 8th or higher, and then he's wrapped up the World Cup standings. Let me just give you a couple of British results so far. Tim Ponting, the best British at the moment, 19th spot. Good riding from Tim Ponting, the animal rider. He was 44th in qualifying. And Steve Gill was he's 36th at the moment. Another one of the animal riders. Good representation in the finals. 3 riders, as I said earlier in the programme. But we're looking at Corrado Herrin, the man of the year so far. And one of the oldest competitors on the circuit. In fact, his birthday was just over a week ago on the 4th of August. The Sintesi Velici rider from Aosta in Italy. And as I've said many times before, he's actually supposed to be a pro fireman, but he's slower at the second checkpoint by almost 4 seconds. But he's not going to worry about that. He wants to finish. Oh, almost loses it on that drop-off. Unfortunately for Herrin, he's got to go some now with a time of 4:15.93 to beat for Corrado Herrin. Nicholas Vullios in the left of your picture looking very calm and cool, isn't he? He sees Herrin coming down the mountain now, though. What can Herrin do? 7th in the World Cup last year. He's leading at the moment. He was 3rd in the Worlds at Vale in 1994. He's not going to threaten the time of Nicholas Vullios, but he's got to come in the top 8. 4:21.11. That's brilliant riding from Corrado Herrin. There's only 8 more riders to come after Herrin, and that means he's 3rd at the moment. It means that one of those riders has got to go a little bit slower than Herrin, and that would confirm him as World Cup winner for 1997. But we go back up the mountain to the fastest British rider so far at Kaprun, or in the semi-finals, I should say. The GT rider, Steve Peat, took over from Nicholas Vullios on the GT team when Vullios abdicated to go back, or go to the Sun Nike team in France, and Steve Peat gets massive air on that jump there. Steve Peat currently lying in 2nd spot. He has actually got to win this race today, and Corrado Herrin has got to come lower than 8th. Corrado Herrin has got to come 9th or lower. Steve has got to win here today if he wants to win the World Cup. He lies 2nd at the moment. He really has to give it some welly now. Oh no! And just as I say it, Pete comes down. Quick, Pete, get up, get up, get up. Oh, he must have lost his concentration. Let's hope he hasn't buckled a wheel like Marcus Klausmann. Oh, that's terrible luck for the GT rider, but his bike looks okay. Come on, Steve, concentrate, get back into it. Oh, that's really unfortunate. He's going to lose a lot of time there, probably 10 seconds. And I think bang goes his chances of winning the World Cup. I could be wrong, but wow. I think his foot just came out of the pedal there. Unfortunately, good job he wasn't hurt though. Or hurt seriously. I'm sure he will do after he finishes his race. Just as I was saying it, that really is unfortunate for the GT rider. Very, very unfortunate. 16th at the World Champion. He's not trying now. It looks like he's given up somewhat. I don't know whether he's got problems with his bike, but he's not trying as hard as he was. I don't know whether he thinks that not coming first in the World Cup, you may as well not try at all. But it's probably winded him, actually, that crash. Oh, that was really unfortunate for Steve Peat. In fact, I was wrong about his World Championships. He was 15th in the Worlds last year, 6th overall in the World Cup. He may still get his best placing in the World Cup if he gives it just a little bit more effort at the end of this run. Wow, that really was unfortunate for him. His former cross-country racer, no, look, a long way down now. Lost massive amounts of time there in the crash. But he's not trying now. Oh, this is very, very disappointing for the British rider, and indeed British viewers, I'm sure. But still, Corrado Herrin, I think that he can virtually be guaranteed the World Cup now. There are only 8 other riders after Herrin, and really Peat was the man who was going to threaten him, and he's not going to do it today. Time of 4:56.92. Unfortunate for Peat, but can he still retain his second spot overall? Jürgen Benecke might have a thing to say about that. We're taking a short break. Join me after that. World Cup. We're now looking at an institution. I was talking about institutions before the race today here in Kaprun, because Kaprun is an institution on the circuit, and so is this man, John Tomac, the giant rider from America. And what a renaissance he is now having on the downhill World Cup scene. He's given up cross-country racing, decided that he'd be better off racing downhill. Takes too much of an effort on the cross-country, and my word, he's come back onto the scene in a big, big way. He's currently leading the North American Championships, the Norba Series. He was 6th fastest in qualifying, the time of 4:26.72. Unfortunately, during that break, we missed the Swedish rider, Tommy Johansson, but his time was 4:24.63. It wasn't going to threaten the time of Nicholas Vullios, the fastest man at the moment. And let me just correct myself, actually. I was talking about the overall results, and I was saying Corrado Herrin, he's currently lying in 3rd spot. He's got to finish at the moment. There you see, have confirmation. Vullios 1st, Missa 2nd, Herrin in 3rd, Ronning 4th, Bueller 5th, Vasquez 6th. But Corrado Herrin has got to finish in the top 10 now. Sorry, he's got to finish 9th or above if Jürgen Benecke, the German rider, 3rd in the World Cup at the moment, the Schwinn Toyota rider. Corrado Herrin has got to finish 9th or higher to prevent Jürgen Benecke winning the World Cup. Before, it was 8th or higher to prevent Steve Peat winning the World Cup, but unfortunately Steve crashed and was never going to threaten Herrin. Sintesi Velici rider, but it's John Tomac. What an outstanding year he is having this year. Best result so far in the World Cup. He was 2nd at Sierra Nevada. Brilliant ride there, just behind Corrado Herrin. In fact, he was leading right until the very last minute in Sierra Nevada, until Herrin, the last man down the mountain, came down and beat him, pipped him on at the post. But John Tomac, his qualifying time was 4:26.72. He's very, very fast at the moment. John Tomac's looking good. I think he's going to beat the time of Vullios. He is indeed. 4:13.61. Fabulous stuff from the veteran racer from America. John Tomac moves into 1st position, 2:32 faster. That is fabulous riding from John Tomac. My word, this man has talent. Started off on mountain bikes, moved over to the road. He rode for Motorola on the road way back in the early 90s, then came back to mountain biking. Had a difficult couple of years after the early 90s, 91, 92, 93. He was 2nd in the Downhill World Cup in 93, 2nd in the Cross Country Cup that year. No other rider like it. As we go back up the mountain to Bruno Zanchi, the Bianchi Martini rider. I just can't go, excuse me. I just can't help repeating myself about John Tomac. My word, he's leading the Norba Series at the moment. Best result so far in the World Cup. Second at Sierra Nevada. He's only finished 3 races, mind. He's had a second, a 12th and a 13th. But what a renaissance for this man. He's getting back into the groove, John Tomac. But I wonder if Bruno Zanchi can beat his time today. The fastest now, so far, 4:13.61, puts Nicolas Vulliot into second place, 4:15.93, with Tommy Missa in third at the moment. But the Italian Bruno Zanchi now on course. On this 3.65 kilometre course, it drops by 600 metres. It's extremely fast. It's the last round of the World Cup this year, but next year, in fact, there's going to be a change in the World Cup. There will be 8 cross-country races and 8 downhill races. Previous to next year, in fact, this year, there's been 6 downhill and 10 cross-country. And they're going to equal things up now. I'm sure that will please the cross-country racers because their calendar is so busy. And to race as much as they do, you have to be extremely fit, and it's very, very tiring. Whereas, as you'd expect, I think the downhillers won't mind me saying this, but it's a lot easier to race 8 downhill races than it is to race 8 cross-country races. The cross-country, it's usually about 2.5 hours. In the downhill, it's usually around about 4 or 5 minutes. A lot easier, I think. But Bruno Zanchi had a World Cup win in 1995 at Aura in Sweden, but he's not going to threaten the time of John Tomac here in Kaprun. Comes off that drop-off quite well. The Italian national champion won that this year. Wearing the jersey of Italian national champion as we look at John Tomac, looking very, very cool, isn't he? The giant rider. Wow, what a surprise that will be. He won the last round, in fact, of the World Cup last year at Hawaii, when conditions were atrocious for the riders there. But Zanchi isn't going to threaten his time. It's going to be a long way out of that. 4:21.45. I say a long way. He's into 5th spot. But what's that? 8 seconds slower. 5th spot at the moment. He qualified 5th fastest with 4:25.41. He's gone about 4 seconds faster than that. But we go back up the mountain to Jürgen Beneke. Beneke has got to win here, really, if he's to stand any chance of beating Corrado Herrin. The German rider looking good at the first checkpoint. 0.43 seconds faster. The Schwinn Toyota rider used to ride for Dos Equos Barracuda. Moved to Boulder, Colorado back in 1996. All-round talent, Jürgen Beneke. I don't know whether you remember from last year at Kaprun, but Beneke was the last man off. He was the fastest in the semi-finals last year, and he crashed big time in his final run. Conditions a lot different then. It was raining and pouring, and that's when Rob Warner won. But Jürgen Beneke, I'm sure he's not going to make the same mistake this year. I think he hopes he's not going to make the same mistake. This is the point where Marcus Klausmann crashed on this section here, but he's safely through that for Beneke. Beneke's got to win here today, and Corrado Herrin has got to come 10th or lower, and I don't think that is going to happen. Herrin is 4th at the moment. It's not. I think I can safely confirm that Herrin has won the World Cup. But Beneke could move into 2nd spot. In fact, he probably will move into 2nd spot overall in the World Cup. The man from Freiburg in Germany, he won the World Cup, the first year it was run, the official Grundig World Cup back in 1993. He won it that year with 2 wins and 2 second spots. In fact, he won here in Kaprun. He was 8th at the World Championships in that year. Very, very experienced racer. Only 25 years old, but he's ridden BMX, road, cross-country, mountain bikes, and he's fastest at the 2nd checkpoint. Looking good at the moment for Beneke, but he doesn't come over that drop-off very well, does he? He looked like he lost a bit of time. I don't know whether he's just trying to be a bit safer. He must have heard the time of Corrado Herrin and indeed John Tomac. He must just want to make sure that he's going to finish, but he's looking good at the moment. I think he might actually do it. He's got about 4 seconds to beat Tomac's time. I don't think he's going to do it, though. He's not going to do it. He's not going to win here. 4:15.55, moves into second spot, pushes Vullios down to third, and he's disappointed there. Oh, unfortunate for the Schwinn Toyota rider. Ridden so well this season. He's had 2 second spots already this year. Second at the last round in Harrisonburg, and second at the first round at South Africa. Both courses very fast, so that's no surprise really that he's lying in second spot at the moment. He was second at Harrisonburg, 0.89 seconds behind Misser. As we go back up the mountain to the third fastest rider in the semi-finals, Gianluca Bononomi, the Bianchi Martini rider, teammate of Bruno Zanchi, 4:24.25 in the semis for Bononomi. Didn't come in the top 10 in 1996 or in 1995. In fact, he wasn't even in the top 20 in 1995. 1995, it was won by Miles Rockwell. Nicolas Vullios was second that year. Vullios won the World Cup that year. But only 3 riders left now. The man in your picture at the moment, Bononomi, doesn't make the same mistake at that corner as Steve Peat did. Bononomi left. Scott Sharples, the Australian Trek Volkswagen rider, second fastest in the semis with 4:24.23, but they were a lot slower than the fastest man in the semi-finals. Sharples was 3.74 seconds slower than fastest man Bastabeva, 4:20.49. And Tomac leading at the moment. Wouldn't it be brilliant if he won the last round this year as well? Last year, everyone said that it was not a mistake, but Tomac was lucky to win, because when he left the start gate in Hawaii in the last round last year, conditions were quite good. Then it started chucking it down with rain. John Tomac, by dint of that weather change, came home in first spot, but he would love to win a World Cup with no excuses from anyone. I'm sure he'd like to do that. In fact, Tomac, last year was his first World downhill win since 1993 at Mont St. Anne, and Bononomi is not going to threaten the time of John Tomac unless he rides out of his skin in this last section of the race. I'm sure most of these riders are a lot happier now that there's no pedaling uphill sections on the course like there was last year. The time last year, the winning time last year was 7:15.32 by Rob Warner. The fastest time so far this year, 4:15.55, so Tomac is 3 minutes quicker than last year. So it just shows you the change in the course. But going back to Bononomi, he's not going to beat the time. 4:19.12 from Bononomi. He's in 5th spot at the moment, but doesn't threaten the time of John Tomac. Only 2 more riders can do that. Wow. Wouldn't this be a surprise? But we can safely say, I think, that Corrado Herrin has won the World Cup as we look at the second man to go. Second from last, Scott Sharples, the Australian Trek Volkswagen rider. Good friends with Michael Ronning, his fellow Australian. Travel the circuit together. Ronning rides for Gary Fisher. Oh, and it's starting to rain. Oh, this is going to help John Tomac. I think that's rain. I'm pretty sure it is rain. Oh, it's not going to please. It is rain indeed. It's not going to please Bastabeva. My word, Bass, I'm sure would want to go out of the World Cup this season with a big bang. Bass line 6th in the World Cup at the moment. Best position of the first place. He won his first World Cup race at South Africa in the first round, and he was 5th at Sierra Nevada in the 3rd round. Hasn't been as consistent as he would have liked. Scott Sharples, the man in your picture at the moment, twice Australian champion in the downhill. In fact, 3 times. He was champion last year as well. Oh no, this is going to please John Tomac, I'm sure. The conditions changing. I couldn't have spoken out of turn, could I? Really, I was saying about how we won the World Cup round in Hawaii last year, the final round, by dint of the change in the weather, and I think he's going to do that this year. As we look at Scott Sharples, this 29-year-old downhiller. My word, there's some good older downhillers on the circuit this year, aren't there? Corrado Herrin, Basta Beva, Scott Sharples, John Tomac. They seem to be showing the youngsters a thing or two. No hint of bias from me there, is there? But you can't guess which side of 30 I am. But Scott Sharples, he's going to be disadvantaged by these weather conditions. Currently lying in 11th spot in the World Cup. Best position of 5th at South Africa, so he likes the fast courses. He was 6th at Harrisonburg in America. Just shows you that he does like them fast. He doesn't like them too technical. I suppose the most technical and most demanding of the courses is Motsanan. He was 24th there, but he's not going to threaten Tomac's time. No way. We're a lot slower than that. 4:28.91. 31st spot for Scott Sharples. That only means that there can be one racer who can beat the time of John Tomac. And to be quite honest with you, I would eat my hat if he beats Tomac's time. Basta Beva, his time in the semis, 4:20.49. He really will have to ride out of his skin, but he's got to be very careful. Doesn't want to crash like Steve Peat did. I'm sure he won't really jeopardise himself. He knows he can't win the World Cup. Currently lying in 6th spot, as I said. This Dutchman used to live in America. He's now moved back to Holland. Seems a bit of a mistake, really, doesn't it? Seeing as though Holland isn't very hilly. He has to travel a long way to get any sort of proper training done. In fact, Bass recently rode the 3rd round of the French Downhill Cup. He came 5th there, behind winner Florent Pousson. But I'm sure Bass will be thinking, well, I can't win. Oh, almost loses it on that section. That's where Markus Klausmann, the German rider, the teammate of Corrado Herrin, lost it. Bass almost lost it on that section there. Tomac fastest at the moment. Benekane 2nd, Vullios 3rd, Herrin in 6th spot. He's won the World Cup. He's going to finish no lower than 8th, and in fact he would have had to have been in 10th if Benekane had won today. But in fact, Herrin would have had to have been 12th or lower, with Benekane at the moment in 2nd spot. So, well done Corrado Herrin, the Italian rider who'd never won a World Cup race before 1997. And not only has bested that by 3, by winning 3 World Cup races this season, he's gone and won the World Cup as well. And I'm pretty sure that he will be the oldest winner of the World Cup so far in its existence. As we look at Basta Beva, the Dutchman from Eindhoven, 3rd at the World Championships last year. That's what got people noticed. They noticed the Dutchman there, but John Tomac, he's looking happy. I think he knows he's won it. Oh, I think you can tell that I'm fairly pleased about that. It's good to see Tomac win. He's had a lot of problems, and indeed, he has won here today. Corrado Herrin has won the World Cup as Basta Beva comes over the line in 4:19.27 in 6th spot. But the man who has won the World Cup race here today, John Tomac. The man who has won the World Cup Series, Corrado Herrin, the Italian rider from Aosta. My word, fabulous. Jürgen Benekane, I believe, in 2nd. Nicholas Vullios, I believe, in third. There you have it, confirmation of the result. John Tomac in first, Jürgen Beneke in second, Nicholas Vullios in third, Tommy Misser in fourth, Gianluca Bononomi, a good ride from him in fifth spot. Tomac taking his second World Cup win in 2 years, Baster in sixth, Herrin in seventh, confirming his World Cup win, Sankey eighth, Ronning ninth, Andy Bueller, the 1996 Junior World Champion, bringing up the top 10. And this is the man himself, John Tomac. Super cool. My words, what a win for him. Wow, he will be very, very pleased. The giant rider, as I said, has had major problems from about 94 actually through to about the middle of last year. There's confirmation of the World Cup win for Corrado Herrin, Jürgen Beneke in second, Tommy Misser in third, Baster in fourth, John Tomac moves up to fifth spot. Brilliant riding from him. Unfortunately, Steve Peat moves out of the top 5. He goes down to 8th. Rob Warner, he goes down to 6th from 4th. Bononomi in 7th, Vasquez 9th, and Vullios in 10th spot. That's brilliant riding from Vullios. He's coming good towards the end of the season. I'm sure he will want to come even better for the Europeans and the World Championships. But what a win for John Tomac. He was 20th overall in the cross-country World Cup last year. He was 26th in the downhill World Cup. He only had 2 results last year. He was 32nd at Mont St. Anne, but he was first at Hawaii in the last round of the World Cup last year. He was 2.78 seconds in front of Todd Schneider. But he's done it again this year. He's won the last round of the World Cup. First with a time of 4:13.61. Brilliant riding from John Tomac. But the World Cup overall goes to that Italian man from Aosta, Corrado Herrin. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage here on Eurosport. My name is Mark Bicycle, wishing you au revoir. Goodbye.
The Grundig-uci Mountain Bike World Cup was brought to you by
Giant, Earth, Wind and Bicycles, and Shimano, original bike.